Hey y'all, it's Kelly from Dixie Darlins Tumblers here, and today I'm going to do something that right around Christmas time I said I may never do again, and that was make a lighted tumbler. But you guys have been asking for a tutorial on it, so I definitely want to give you that. And there's lots of great tutorials out there on the lighted cup, and there's lots of different ways to do it. I've spent tons of time on the phone with lots of my tumbler friends, just trying to figure out how to make the cup functional with the lights and just being able to drink out of it too. And this is what I came up with. So I'm going to go over that with you from start to finish. And if you have any questions, I'm going to try my best to go in depth as much as possible with this cup, because I know it can be a little bit confusing, and it's going to be so fun though. So I'm going to thread my lights through, I'm going to add some glitter, and I knew that I didn't want to do the typical Christmas cup. I wanted to go with something to get us in the mood for summer, and it had to be beach. And then I wanted to do something with the tiki bar. But oh my goodness, y'all, trying to find images that provided any kind of cohesive theme on this cup. It was all very cartoonish what I came up with. So y'all can ask April at the Vinyl Cottage. I pulled out a Hail Mary on the images for this cup, but they are the cutest. They are these cute little vintage girls. One of them, she's a little girl at the tiki bar, and there's a little vintage hula girl. So cute. I'm so excited about it. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. I will list all the products that I use in the description box below. Please subscribe so you don't miss future tutorials. I hope y'all enjoy it. Please, as always, ask any questions that you need me to clarify with you. And thank y'all for watching. So I'm starting with just a sanded Strawbler. If you're not familiar with this, it's made by Hogg, and it actually has a bottom that screws off and has an open area there where they actually made it to keep a expandable straw. But you'll see we're going to take the straw out. I'm going to clip those little pieces out on the inside, and we're going to put a battery pack in there. So right now I'm just going to drill my hole, and I'm measuring down, not all the way to the bottom of the cup, but see where that last little thread is? There's an open space. That's where I thread the lights through. So I'm using a 1/8 inch drill bit here, and that's the perfect size for when you go to epoxy the cup. The epoxy doesn't leak through. But I'm gonna pull through the lights, and I'm gonna pull through the little area on the end that has a plastic covering on it. So that's the perfect size for me to get all the lights through, and that plastic covering over the wires will come right through on it too. And once I get the initial hole through there, I do go back through just a couple of times, just up and down, just to kind of clean off any metal that might be sticking out from where I did the initial hole. And you can see right here where I'm placing the hole. It's in that last little area right between the last thread and the actual bottom of the cup. So that's where I like to place it, just so the majority of the screw-on bottom doesn't have to go over it. And then this is the bottom, and I just take a pair of pliers. There's two little plastic pieces in there that act as a kind of a compartment for the straw. And I just take my pliers, and you can see it pops off pretty easy. So I'm a weakling, and if I can pop it off, it does it pretty much right along the seam, so it doesn't leave any sharp edges. So I did go ahead and spray paint my cup. I'll list all the colors that I used in the description box below. It was raining that day, and I did not get to film it for y'all, but I will list the colors down below. And then I mixed up Counterculture's Artist Resin, about 5 milliliters, just so I can apply a thin coat here for my glitter. And I'm actually going to walk through this pretty slow with you guys today. Typically I don't with my glitter, but I use a lot of colors here, and I'm really trying to get a really good ombre effect here. So I'm going to go through it a little bit slower than normal. And I'm going to be using all Peachy Olive glitters today. This is my favorite gold. It's Athena. And I'm just doing a light dusting of this. I don't want to provide too thick coverage the first time. I'm going to do a little bit of white right above this. So I want to be able to blend it down. And I'm just not using very much, especially there's not a bottom on this cup. So now I'm going into Parabatai, I believe that's how it's pronounced, excuse me, also by Peachy Olive Glitters. And I'm just doing a little bit. This is a chunky with a little bit of color mixed in, so I don't want a lot, just enough to put a little bit of white on the cup to start with. And this is JoJoBa from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's a newer one that was not in this most recent Peachy palette, but in the one before. So I'm not sure it's listed on the website, but I will have the colors all listed in the description box below. It's just really pretty chunky green. I just wanted to add a little bit in. So I'm just sprinkling it because I don't want it to be a line of this green since it is chunky. So I'm just going to do it up and down just so there's a little bit sprinkled all throughout the top. Then I'm going into Kaneohe, and this is a really pretty color that tends to blend green and blue together very well. And it has a beautiful opal. It just has a little bit of, I don't even know if it's a blue, maybe a teal to it. But I'm just going to lay that over where I just put the other, because that green, I wanted the green to blend in really well to the blue. And I really like using this Kaneohe. I use it probably a lot more than I think I do because it's so pretty. It just blends these colors so well. And then I'm going to add Bejeweled. Bejeweled is a really pretty blue too. That's just going to blend from the green up to the top. It has a little bit of shift color to it, and it's so pretty. And again, I'm just going to put a really light dusting of this, where I'm starting to blend it from the teal color into the blue at the top. And here you can kind of see that I'm angling the cup down. So I'm actually trying to sprinkle it on the top and just let the rest of it fall down into the green. And I had to put 30A on this cup. If there's a cup right now that I'm using blues or purples on, it's got to have 30A in it. I'm totally obsessed with this color right now. I don't know what kind of magic is in this glitter right here, but it is amazing. It changes colors from blue to purple depending on what you're putting it with, what base you're putting it on. I am totally obsessed with this color right now. And then after I've got 30A blended up to the top, I'm going to add Atlantis. It's my darkest blue that I'm going to use. And it's a little bit chunky. It's not as chunky as the Athena is, but it's just a little chunkier mix. So I'm just going to add it lightly around the top. I don't want to go too dark too fast here on my first coat, but I know that I want the very edge. So I put a little bit more on the edge, but then I just lightly go down, and I do not go down far because this stuff is pretty dark, and I don't want the dark to carry down the cup very much. And as I'm almost finishing, I will tilt the cup down, just let a little bit of the glitter fall down, just a little bit. Then I had to throw a little Sullivan in there. It's in the most recent Peachy palette, and it's a really pretty blue that has like a silver holographic fleck in it. So I thought it would be just a nice little addition here, just to lighten up a little bit where I put the Atlantis. So I'm just going back over that and where I did the 30A, but just just a very little bit. I just wanted to kind of try it out on this one. And then I'm going into Chantilly, and I'm going to go back in between the Athena and the Parabatai. Here, I'm just going to go with a little bit heavier coat, and I am going to lay this over the Athena pretty much with not a heavy coat, but with a little bit. So it lightens up that gold just a little bit to look more like my sand that I want it to, and then just add a little bit more sparkle to it. Then I'm going to add a pretty heavy coat of 10, 12, 13. It's such a good blending color for the gold, white, and greens here. It really, you can put it over all of it. Probably at some point I'd dump the whole thing. I'd dump it all over the whole cup. It's so pretty. Then I'm going to go back in with Bejeweled, a heavier coat this time, because I want to try to blend a little bit more of these blues and greens here. And then I'm going to use the darker Peachy Olive Glitter Weekend at Bernie's. It's just a really pretty turquoisey teal color that has a little color shift in it. I always like this color, and it seems to blend in really well. The blues and the greens here too. It's darker, so I'm really going to use this to make the top of my cup dark versus the darker Atlantis. I just wanted a little base with that Atlantis, but I really love using this Weekend at Bernie's. And again, it's hard to tell from this angle, but I am tilting it down. So I always try to aim at the top of the cup and then just let it fall from there. This is YMBB. It's a little bit finer cut than Atlantis is. So now that I have a pretty good coverage of some other lighter colors, I am going to go back in with a little bit of this just to try to blend that Atlantis down with the other colors. And you can see I have it at a pretty good angle here too. And now I'm going to go back in with a much thicker coat this time of Athena. I'm really going to just lay it on there now. There's so much glitter on here now that just little bits are going to stick. So I'm pretty safe that a little bit of it will blend in, but most of it will tap off. And now I'm going to do a really heavy coat of 10, 12, 13. I knew I would get to this where I just dump it all over the cup. This color is always such a good blending color for any kind of beach color or any blues that you're working with, blues and greens. It just tends to just work its magic and blend them all together. And I'm going back over with a pretty heavy coat now. You can see of Weekend at Bernie's. There's so much glitter on here again. A lot of it's going to stick, but it is going to still blend because it's a finer cut. So you can see everything's starting to blend together now. So after I've let this coat dry for about 4 hours, I go into my first layer of epoxy. And I use Counterculture's Artist Resin, and then I let that dry for about 6 hours, and I go right into a second coat. So this cup does have 2 coats of 20 milliliters of Counterculture's Artist Resin on it, and then I let it dry overnight, and I have sanded the rim at the top and around the bottom. And now I've got my cute little hula girls. I will link the shops that I got all these decals at in the description box below. I could not find one set of images in Etsy or anywhere that I was crazy about all of them. So I kind of pulled the hula girl from one place, and then the tiki torches from somewhere else, and then the palm trees. You can see how there's just the top of the palm tree. I didn't like the bottom of the palm tree on that, so I took another pattern and cut the bottom out of another SVG. And then I'm going to show you here how I layer them. So I was trying to make it as easy as possible and be able to explain it as well as I could. So right now I'm literally just trying to get my placement on the cup. I'm just going to try to see how many things I can fit on this cup and where all I need to space them out. And this is just white adhesive vinyl. April at the Vinyl Cottage printed these off for me, and they did really well. The white around it weeded out really good. Oh, they turned out really cute. So I want her a little bit lower. I want her little tiki hut to be on the beach. Then I'm just going to pull the transfer tape off. This adhesive vinyl sticks really well, so I didn't have any issues with it, trying to pull up with the transfer tape or anything. And now this is where I was talking about that I'm going to use the base of one, and then I'm going to apply the palm tree on this was actually from a watercolor pack, and I liked it. It just looked more natural, and it seemed to fit in with the little tiki hut over here. So I decided I was going to use the top of that, but it had a really thin and shorter base to it. So I wanted something taller that would kind of rise above the tiki hut and look normal. Sorry, y'all. Sometimes I have a hard time explaining what's in my mind to you guys. But so I'm just using my transfer tape to place them together before I apply them to the cup. And this was just an extra piece of backing to vinyl that I had, that I kind of used that so I could lay them both down on. And I pretty much wanted the width of the cup. I want it to look like it's in the sand but coming into the sky, so I can hang my little lights from it, or kind of what the thought process was here. And then I wanted enough space on either side of the little tiki hut that I could put my little tiki torches on there. And then, so the tiki hut's on one side, then I'm going to put my little hula girl on the other side. And she also came from a pack that I got on Etsy, and then April at the Vinyl Cottage printed it off for me. And then I'm just going to go back. I'm trying to decide exactly where I want these tiki torches, where they look like naturally they would be in the sand on each side of the tiki hut. And then once I finish with my decals, I am going to go straight into a layer of epoxy. So I use 15 milliliters of Counterculture's Artist Resin here. And the reason I do that in between the vinyl and then applying my lights is because if you go to put super glue on these printed vinyl decals, it does seem to wipe off the vinyl. So I just do a layer of epoxy, that way my little decals are all safe and sound, and then I can go into my lights. And these are just the little fairy lights. I get these on Amazon. These are the colored ones. I use these and the white ones. I'll link everything in the description box below for you guys. And then super glue, it's kind of just like a hit or miss. I've actually found that the Dollar General super glue works better than any of them. And so I'm just going to unravel the lights, and I try to get them as straight as possible. They kind of have a little kink in them where they come in the box. So I try to get that little kink out and just straighten them out pretty good. And then I'm just kind of showing you here. These are little Velcro packs I used. You can really use any. These happen to have like 12 of each, like the male and the female. And so you're just going to take, I'll show you here in just a minute, but I'm going to take one of them and apply it to the bottom of the cup, and the other one's going to go to the back of the battery pack. But I'm going to thread my lights through here first. So I'm just going to take the very end, and I'm going to start from underneath the cup, and I'm going to thread them to the outside, obviously. So you can see here, I'm just and I'm going to pull them through. And so that hole that I drilled with that 1/8 inch bit is, so you can see they come through here with no problem. But then there's a little piece that's going to be next to the battery pack that has a plastic covering over it. So that's actually really great because it fills that hole up when you pulled that little section through, and then it also protects the wire, so the wire's not, you're not running the metal of the battery on the metal of the cup. So you never really have any wire on wire. So you can see right here, it's got a little plastic piece of the last, I don't know, a couple of inches of it. And it provides a little covering, so when you're pulling it through, it's protected for the wire. And then it just fills that hole up perfect, so no epoxy is going to seep through the hole that I drilled. And then I'm just going to basically wind the rest of this around, you can see. And when I put the Velcro in the bottom, I'm just going to kind of do it in a way that that little piece will wrap around. It won't get in the way of the cup. It won't get away in the battery pack. So I usually just put one piece down on the cup, and then I'm going to take like the male or the female. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to take the other one, I'm going to put it on the battery pack. And the only thing I would say about this is put it on the side that doesn't have the screws. So you can see I'm putting it on the clean side. The other side is where you can unscrew it to change out the batteries. So I always make sure I put it on the clean side, and then this just kind of wraps around and it just snaps right down in. So, and then I'm just going to start working my lights in the pattern that I want. This time I decided, you see I've just got like a Dollar General super glue. I don't like the gel kind, I'll tell you that. It doesn't seem to dry as fast. And then just be careful when you're applying it to the cup. If it runs down the cup, it's going to make a mess, and you're going to have to go back and sand those areas out. And I only speak from experience here. But I decided that I wanted to work the lights around the base and the stem, or the base of the palm trees. And then I kind of wanted to work them around like party lights. You know, they kind of, you know, drip around from maybe on a gazebo or something, or even on the tiki hut. I just kind of wanted them to like work that way on the cup. That was my idea. So I'm really just going to work them around, and then I've just got a pencil here so I don't get super glue all over my hands. If you haven't made one of these, be extra careful because you will super glue your fingers to the cup, to the lights, to each other. I think the whole month of December when I was making Christmas cups, my fingers were stuck together the whole month. And then I'm just going to turn the music up and let y'all watch me work here, because there really isn't, there's no secret to it. I'm just bending the wire. I try to keep it still as smooth as possible. And then these, I'm just going to work them in a little zigzag pattern up the tree, and then I'm just going to start moving around. I've got one on each corner of the tiki hut, and then I work my way around, and then I go back down the other tree. And then here you can see that that's the kind of look I wanted, where they were kind of just swinging from tree to tree, or one side of the tiki hut to the other. Just in my mind, how I imagine that, you know, little lights at the beach at night would look. And after I'm done gluing the lights on, you can pretty much go straight into your next layer of epoxy. I maybe let it dry 10 or 15 minutes just so that last little light I've glued on is dry pretty well. But I do mix up 25 milliliters of Counterculture Artist Resin here. I use a little bit more than I normally would, just because of the wires. I want to make sure that the epoxy's down in the wires really well. So I apply it as normal, but then I go back with my finger, or with a gloved finger, and just run it all the way through the wire, because a lot of times I'll think it's getting down, especially where those are wound pretty closely together. It has a tendency to not get down in there even when I think it does. So I do make sure that it's gotten under the wires, under the lights, in the little places where they're wound pretty close together. And then I do apply heat here. I just do it very carefully. I don't want to burn the lights, burn the wire, anything. So I do apply a torch, but just a very little bit. And you can see here I'm kind of going back in and adding some. Like, it just doesn't seem to get down between the wires really well sometimes, so I have to go back and add some. And I don't know why I do it with the lights on. I just like to apply my epoxy with the lights on. And so I usually leave it on as I'm applying the epoxy, use the torch, and then I turn the lights off. And then after this coat dries, I give it about 4 to 6 hours. And then I do go into another coat and I apply 20 milliliters of Counterculture's Artist Resin here. It just keeps, it's a little bit bulkier, but it keeps the lights from just sticking out so much from the cup. So I'll usually always do 2 coats after I put my lights on. And now we've got our finished little tiki bar luau lighted tumbler. I am so obsessed with these little girls. These little vintage luau and the little tiki bar girl are so freaking cute to me. So I love them. I'm already thinking about what else I can do with them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please like, share, subscribe, all that fun, crazy stuff. And let me see your creations. Please share them with me. I can't wait to see what all you guys come up with. And I thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all again soon.